I'm Jen Kilborn,
And I'm Melissa Klug.
and you're listening to the Pro Organizer Studio podcast.
We want to broaden the horizons of savvy businesswomen in the organizing industry and to give you the confidence you need to grow the business that you want.
With strategies designed specifically for professional organizers, we hope to inspire you wherever you are on your journey of entrepreneurship. We're so happy you're here with us. Now let's get started.
Hey, Pro Organizers, it's Melissa, and we are back with part 2 of my interview with my friend and our inspired organizer mentor, Cabri Carpenter. I wanted to divide this into a couple of sections because the first part of our conversation today, I think, is really important. It's about fear. And it's something that I see a lot with organizers, and I wanted to make sure that we were really concentrating on it at the beginning of this podcast. So I hope that you had an absolutely fabulous week of organizing last week. And I would love to hear from you if there's anything I can do to help you. hello@proorganizerstudio.com. And if you'd like to spend another hour with me, our free workshop is up at poroadmap.com. I would love to see you there. All right, let's get started with Cabri. This is a completely different subject, but since you brought it up, I want to talk about it. Something I see a lot is people who are so afraid of a potential bad review that they don't do certain things, or they don't do things that actually make a lot of sense because we're afraid of a mythical bad review. I have seen people make comments that are like, well, I really don't want to work with this client anymore. They are bad for the following 52,000 reasons, but I'm afraid if I tell them I can't come back that they're going to leave me a bad review. Or I can't hold off on getting product for them because I have to show up with the product and I have to get the project done in one day. Otherwise, they're going to give me a bad review. And I know those are only 2 examples. I've seen it a lot of other times where I'm like, the actual bad review process, it happens so infrequently.
In our business, this comes down to a lot of communicating expectations. So when we go to the consult, we tell them, whether it's a Monday or a Friday, I tell them, honestly, I'm probably not going to work on it till Friday afternoon or this weekend. So you'll have it sometime early next week. Very honest, even if something happens and Monday is a complete mess, I can send it to them Tuesday morning. And technically I am within I sent it early in the week. That's just
right.
is what it is. On the flip side of that, we tell clients, we're going to do phase 1. We're going to declutter. We're going to get preliminary sorted. We're going to measure, and then we're going to leave. And you're just going to have to live with it for about a week or so while it's in that transition phase. And then phase 2 will roll around about a week later. We'll implement product. We'll make sure it's labeled. We'll do the walkthrough with you. Mm-hmm. I communicate all that to them at the very beginning. And that's how they expect it to happen and how we tell them to expect it to happen. And they're like, oh, yes, it's okay.
You have given them the playbook.
Yes.
So they know what to expect.
Do they know that there's other organizers who come in and do it all in one day? Maybe.
No.
I don't know. But I tell them, this is how we work. This is how our business and our team operates. This is how we're going to do things. Never has anybody left a bad review or had any issues with it.
Yep. Also, on this front, if you do get a bad review, there are great ways to deal with that too. So first of all, we're afraid of something that rarely, if ever, happens. And we're afraid of something that if it did happen, the worst case scenario is always manageable. Always.
Have you ever seen those studies that they say it's actually good to have at least like one bad review?
Yeah. I have an example is I have done marketing for non-organizers before, and I had someone that I worked with who got a bad review from someone who, by the way, hadn't even come into the business, right? She had one phone call with the guy, and the guy just went off the rails. He left a really bad review, and she wanted to flame him. And I said, please, we're not going to do that. We are going to just wait a couple days, cooler heads prevail. We had a very well-crafted, very polite and kind response. And 2 days later, she had a customer that came into the store and said, I came in here because I read that bad review and I read what you posted and I knew that you were a good place to go. Actually referenced the bad review. So it actually got her a client, didn't lose her a client.
That's fascinating.
So, I mean, that's one example, but I just think that sometimes, and this is maybe a bigger thing, is a lot of times I see organizers that are afraid and operating out of a sense of fear about any number of things, whether it is upsetting a client or losing a client or not getting a client or whatever. And that operating out of fear, I think, is actually one of the biggest things that we're talking about today without talking about it.
I really do love that. And as you said that, I do think that the overcomplicating things and over organizing, that all comes from a place of fear, whether
Yeah.
it's wanting to look more professional than you think you are, or wanting to compete with other organizers in your area, or scared that one of your teammates is going to mess up because you didn't properly communicate. I feel like all of the things that are systems that we talked about are examples of overthinking and overcomplicating things all come back to some sort of fear.
Or if I don't overcomplicate it, or if I don't know every single step, if I don't know the steps from A to F and then from G to Z, then I am not going to know what to do next. I'm too afraid that if I don't have everything figured out beforehand, that somehow I'm going to get there and immediately forget how to do my job. When in fact, I think if you're flexible and if you go with the flow a little bit, it actually makes you a better organizer and it makes you a better business person.
I would agree with that. Even if the people who have every single teeny tiny step mapped out, you might have a client who comes in and says, just kidding, I wanted something different.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that for some people that could throw them into a complete tailspin. So having that flexibility and go with the flowness, that helps
Yeah.
ton.
Have you ever had something that you had to catch yourself on of like, wow, I overthought this and I overcomplicated this?
Every single day.
Okay.
Literally, that happens at least once a day.
Okay.
I will get a sideways look from somebody. I will get a look from a client or one of my subcontractors. So this is ADHD brain for me, and I didn't realize it a long, long time ago when I was helping train and mentor other people. But in my head, there's just certain things that connect and make sense that my brain automatically skips over. So,
okay.
You take a process, you say, here's step A, here's step B, here's step C, here's step D. 4 easy, very simple steps. But other people may miss that completely to where they say, well, I didn't know I was supposed to hit enter.
Oh, right.
And that was in my head. It's like, it's okay. You do step A, hitting enter is just a part of step A. Like I had to force myself to almost overcomplicate it so that I could actually communicate it to other people. And so I almost got too far into that where I was like, make sure you hit enter, make sure the decimal is in the right spot, make sure that you're keeping track of this. And they're like, but why? Why do we need to do that? Like, I get it. I know what I'm doing. And I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, it is just one of those things that like it took me having one person who was misunderstanding and I wasn't communicating correctly. So then I panicked out of fear of like, oh my gosh, I've been talking to my subcontractors and telling them the wrong thing or not giving them enough information, that suddenly I almost became an over explainer or a micromanager or whatever in that capacity, that they finally came back and they're like, you hired us to be problem solvers and to create solutions for clients. Let us do that. Just get away. And I'm like, okay, I could do that.
Get out of my
Easy.
way. Get out of my way.
Yeah.
Well, and I think sometimes having those conversations is hard, right? It can maybe hurt our feelings a little bit, or you have to give up a little bit of pride of, well, no, this is like I'm kind of in charge and I have to figure this out. I think giving up some of that control, because that's another piece of it, right? It's control.
Mm-hmm.
Giving up some of that control and letting go is actually a gift to your client, to your people that work for you, people that work with you, people who work around you.
For sure. I will also say that if I had not chosen to give up some of the control that I was very, very hard holding tight to, like I did not want to let it go. I wanted everybody just to read my mind and know exactly what I wanted and do it exactly the way that I wanted. If I hadn't given up that control and let them kind of take a step on the wild side, do things that made sense to them, have the conversations with the clients that made sense to them, I don't think we'd be near as successful as we have been. And I know that there are certain clients who don't come back because of me. I know that they come back because they had a conversation with a subcontractor.
Yep.
They had some sort of connection to them, or they had some sort of reasoning or a walkthrough, or they had something that brought them back. And it wasn't something that I designed or something that I told them to do. They just connected with the client.
Yep. And if you didn't let go, you might not have the reach that you do.
Exactly.
And then we all know happy people talk to other people about what you do.
Yes.
And those people talk to other people. And that referral network that you start to get is the most important thing in your entire business.
Oh, for sure. That's where a majority of our leads come from.
If you had to go back to the very beginning of your business, what's something that you would, maybe not on the overcomplicating front, but what would you tell yourself? Like knowing what you do now.
I really think this whole episode is like a really good summary of what I would tell myself. And I say that too, because, there's a lot of people who see me, or they see the business. They see us on Instagram. They see what we've created, but we're 5.5 years in. Like we're down the road. Okay. They do not see year one where I had the logo designed by yours truly that was like, the font Comic Sans.
Of course I do.
You know how it got like so much, like it's such a bad reputation.
Oh yeah,
Like,
people hate Comic Sans.
I know. Okay, so my logo was Comic Sans in logo form. Like that's the best way I know how to describe it. Like it was trash. It was terrible. Nobody sees that. Nobody sees going through 6, 7, 8 variations of colors, trying to figure out what I wanted or like what I was trying to convey to people. Nobody saw that. Nobody saw the absolute terrible before and after pictures of hoarding houses that I should have never been allowed to walk in. Like I was not qualified. I was not educated. Nobody sees any of that.
Right.
They just see 5.5 years on the road. They think, oh, so awesome. Cabri's got a team and so many followers on Instagram. And I'm like, yeah, but I did some crap back in the day and it was ugly. And I was overcomplicating things left and right. And it finally, about a year and a half in, I would say, was the point that I was burning myself out. And I finally sat down and asked myself, like, why? Why are you doing this? It's not actually, it's kind of the same thing. It's not accomplishing anything. It's making you feel like you're a crazy person. And it's not actually bringing money into the business. So what's the point?
Yep.
And so kind of the same thing. I had tried to implement some software and some systems. I very quickly went back to just spreadsheet, pencil, paper, call it good. I was sending invoices through PayPal so that it could still kind of look professional. We were signing paper contracts. Like it was bare bones as far as simplicity. And I'm super grateful for that because I would probably still be overthinking things if I hadn't given myself permission and allowed myself to just simplify and sit back and stop trying to be some super techie professional organizer. Yep. Clearly, I had no idea what I was doing.
Because you might not have done it. And that's where, when you talked about the logo, I thought about, there was a phrase that I heard one time that if you're not embarrassed of your first logo, you move too slowly in your business. But that's another part of the overthinking process is you might overthink your branding so much that you never actually launch your business. You might overthink your website so much that you don't put a website out there and then nobody can find you. You might overthink the name of your business so much. And I've said this a million times before. I bet you I have clients, really, really clients who love me, who could not tell you the name of my business. There's no way that they'd be able to tell you my business is Home by 11. And so I see sometimes this overthinking means you stop any forward progress. So if your logo isn't what you deem perfect, then you just don't launch your business. And that makes me really sad because it's opportunity cost and I always think about, what if that perfect client is out there who really needs you and you don't exist to them?
Oh yeah. I will always say that imperfect action is better than no action. Even talking to subcontractors and other organizers, I would rather you make a decision and it be the wrong decision and we have to go back and fix it or repair it or whatever than to not do it at all.
Yes, because you are absolutely missing out.
Yes. What's the worst that can happen? I tell people that all the time. What is the like you go into a client's home and you do something wrong or you put it in the wrong spot, or one of my favorites, like I don't have kids. And so my brain doesn't necessarily think like a mom.
Yeah.
But I went into a client's house one day, was working in the pantry and the kitchen. I put their KitchenAid mixer on the bottom shelf in the pantry. It had all the other appliances. And she called me that afternoon. I left. She was gone or whatever. She called me. She said, I need you to come back. And I was like, what? What happened? What's wrong? Like, I was totally caught off guard. And she said, my kids are obsessed with the KitchenAid mixer. It's going to fall off and fall on them. And I'm like, no, you're right. Like, I hadn't thought about it like that.
Right.
But, it's stuff like that you have to be flexible. You have to be a problem solver in many different ways. You can't be scared of rejection. You can't be scared of failure. You just have to do it and make a decision. And if it's wrong, your client's going to tell you, or your subcontractor is going to tell you, somebody's going to tell you, and then you can fix it. It's fine. I don't think that anything is not fixable, especially as adults. So
sometimes fixing it actually makes people like you more too. Acknowledging that you made a mistake or acknowledging that, oh, that maybe wasn't my smartest thing. I'll sometimes flat out say that to clients. Like if I give them an idea and they look at me like I have 4 heads, I will just sometimes say, I have ideas. They're not all good. Clearly that one didn't make it.
It's fine.
But also I want to make you feel a little bit better. I do have children. And one time I was at a client, I will never forget this. And so I have girl children and she had small boy children. And I
Mhm.
was like, hey, what if we moved this piece of furniture over here in this corner? I think it'd give you more storage space. And she looked at me and she's like, do you see where that is? They will take that and launch it at like a trampoline, and you're putting it right by the stairs, and they're going to fall down the stairs. Like she goes, don't you have kids? And I'm like, well, yeah, but not kids that would have done something like that. So it
Mm.
doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It does
I'm
not
sure she
matter.
was a paying client, and I'm sure
She
she left a
was.
great review, and she was probably a recurring client after that
She
too.
paid me a lot of money and she was very happy.
Yeah.
So, yes. And so, okay. So, in general, stop overcomplicating things. Stop being afraid of things. These are all very simple. Just check the box and just stop
Mhm.
doing it, right? It's like when you're having a bad day and someone's like, just cheer up. Oh, great. I'm better now.
Mhm.
But stop overthinking things. Stop overcomplicating things. Think about flexibility. And these are all muscles that you have to exercise, right? We are not expecting that you're going to turn off this podcast and be like, cool, I'm going to totally change my entire life. But what we want you to do is recognize maybe I have these things out there that I am overcomplicating. I might want to sit and think about what are some of those things. And then also give yourself permission to make changes. I think that's to me, that's the biggest thing you have to take from this is permission to stop doing the things that don't work
Amen to that.
and just think about, I don't have to do everything perfectly. It's okay to just be a work in progress. I'm a work in progress every day. I mess stuff up every day.
I have a random question. Do you have like an accountability partner or a business coach that you kind of bounce things off of, or at least kind of let them run through and say, like, where am I overthinking things? Where am I? Do you
Yes.
have that person in your life?
I have a couple people who serve that for me and it will be and I'm comfortable enough and this is key. I'm comfortable enough to admit I think I really messed up
Hmm.
and then tell them where I think I've messed up and then have them give me some feedback or at least just go, "Hey, it's fine." Or it's like confession, right? It's almost like saying like, "Oh, I did this thing and I don't think that was very smart." But yes, I do have those people. And I just call them business besties. Like
Yeah.
you've got to find a business bestie where you can say, "Hey, the following thing happened to me today." And I know sometimes in our business that's hard because even if you have a team, essentially you're the owner of a business and you don't have a lot of coworkers.
Hmm.
So you've got to find that person. And I think that's really important. And it can't really be someone in my experience anyway, I don't think it'd be someone in your house,
Yeah.
like,
I would
or a friend
definitely,
even.
yeah, I would definitely encourage everybody to find some sort of accountability partner or business bestie in that sense that you can ask. Am I overcomplicating things? Am I making it more difficult than it has to be? Is there a way I can simplify it? Is there a way I can streamline it? I mean, I think we all have to have that. It's easy for us to get stuck in the looking at it every single day and missing the big key factors that might be really obvious to somebody from the outside.
One of the things that I learned in my corporate life that I really like is there was a concept of having a personal board of directors. So, in great big companies, they have these boards of directors that say, yes, you're going to do this. No, you're not going to do this. You may have people that are other organizers that are on your board of directors, right? But you might
Hmm.
have people like some of my friends from my old corporate life who don't understand what I do now and don't understand entrepreneurship and don't understand organizing. I still will sometimes run things by them and just be like, hey, does this make sense to you? Or think about something from your perspective and can you apply that to me? Or how would you see this if you were a person who didn't know anything about me and you were looking at my services? You know what I mean? Like you can
Yeah.
ask a lot of people, even if they're not in your industry, what do you think about XYZ? And I think the difference of ideas is really cool.
Oh, for sure. And always having a second set of eyes. You're always going to
Yes.
get somebody is going to see something different every single time and
Well,
draw
it's like,
something out.
yeah, it's like with the example I gave way earlier about like a client doesn't see what's right in front of their face. And you
Hmm.
just go, oh, my favorite example is adjusting shelves in a kitchen. I didn't know you could do that. It's just 4 pins on the side, Karen. Like you just
Literally.
pull the shelf down.
Not that hard.
It's not that hard, but like they don't see it, right? And so it's the same thing in our businesses. Having that outside perspective is really and also being able to accept the criticism because
That is
I
a
take
big one.
things really personally and like I don't like getting my feelings hurt. And so it's like if you tell me that my thing's not I'm not a pretty princess, I'm going to go like, "Oh, I'm sad." But being able to accept that criticism just like we're talking about today, we say this out of love.
I love that about you, and I think I'm the complete opposite. I want people to literally
I
insult
know you
me.
do. I know you do. And
It's
that's the one way we are different.
it's terrible because I'm like, come up with the worst thing you can say to me, and then I'm gonna fix it, especially in the business. I'm gonna fix it,
Yeah.
and then I'm gonna make $1,000,000 off of it. That is
Right.
my mindset on all the things.
But that is a great mindset. And I will tell you, if I'm going to be introspective, I will tell you, I have probably fallen down at a lot of points in my career, both as an entrepreneur and pre entrepreneurship, because I have a hard time with criticism. It definitely has held me back. And I've worked really, really hard to be able to accept that. And I mean, I'm a work in progress at age 112 that I am. But
I'm gonna say the same thing I said a second ago. What's the worst that can happen if somebody gives me
correct.
criticism?
Exactly. And so that's why, but that's like, that goes back to like, childhood psychology, all sorts of stuff, right? We're all built very differently. And so
Yes.
you just knowing who you are and then knowing whether it's criticism or anything else you're ready to accept and just being able to work through that, I think is really good. That's why I think we all need business therapists.
Oh, that should be more of a thing than it is.
I know it really should be. So, because
I
I,
would call mine every single day and tell her all the
yes.
things that happened, and she'd be like, "Get over it."
Well, let's get to some of the actually like the super important things. Where can people find you? Tell us, we didn't do this at the beginning. I know people know you, but just tell everybody about your business once again.
So our business is Minimize and Organize. We're based in Lubbock, Texas. Y'all, I need business besties to like come
Yeah.
and just tell me what I'm doing wrong. I am
She
in the
wants you to yell
phase.
at her, you guys.
I do. I want you to yell at me. I want you to be mean to me, but I really am. This year, we are focusing on like me stepping out of the business and being more CEO, creating sales, working on some of our other projects that include podcasts and digital products and all that good jazz. But yeah, that's kind of an overview. And you can always find us on Instagram. We're on Instagram. That's our platform of choice. We have the website, it's minimizeandorganize.com, because I know Melissa's going to yell at me.
I will not.
We do. We love social media.
I know.
I do. I warn clients sometimes. Sometimes they're like, "Hey, I found you on Instagram and I just love your energy." And then there's other people who come to a website or somewhere else. And I'm like, "Hey, I should warn you, if you go looking for us on Instagram, like I promise we're not on drugs. It just
Right.
feels like it from the outside. So don't judge us. Like we just like to have fun." So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I tell people on if they're going to follow us on Instagram or not. But yeah, you can get a
No.
behind the scenes peek of our team and how it all works.
Okay. I love your Instagram because I love it for a lot of reasons, but for the biggest reason is you actually show who you are and you show your personality. And I love that because I want everyone to show their personality. And by the way, their personality doesn't have to be yours. It doesn't have to be fun or funny or trying to make people laugh that's what I try to do as well, but it can be whoever you are, but just be authentically you.
Yes.
And then by the way, there might be clients that go, "This isn't for me. I don't
Mhm.
want level 11 fun. I want level 2 seriousness."
Oh, and
Cool. They're not going to pick you.
yes, that does happen on occasion.
And by the way, that's okay because that
Mhm.
means they're not your client.
Yes. We could do a
So,
whole separate podcast on like clients and compatibility with the organizer and rating your clients. And we could do a whole separate thing just on that
well,
alone.
let's do it.
Let's do it.
We're gonna make a date. We're gonna make a date.
We should
Okay,
just plan this like once a week. Just like
I
let's
love
just
it. Thank you, Cabri, for being with us, and I hope that you enjoyed our conversation. Thank you for joining us as always on the Pro Organizer Studio podcast. If you could do us a huge favor and rate and review us on your podcast platform, it really helps people find us. And please tell people about us. We love, love, love to have new people in our community. I hope that you have an absolutely fabulous week, organizers.